Good afternoon, everyone. With incredible anomalies across the planet, Spain is seeing noctilucent clouds. Incredibly far south, seems like this is becoming a trend. More debris in the upper atmosphere. European Commission trimming wheat forecasts, food down. Green agenda to cut 20 million tons from European production. Net cereal importer. Russia export tax increase yet again, second time in 3 months. A summation of Brazilian production agriculturally. Central bank digital currency, 5 digital dollar projects, the next evolutionary U.S. currency. Speaking of liabilities, people joining Social Security crashing. How convenient. Investors could still see some of the strongest price action in gold this year, according to Wells Fargo, which sees signs of a developing rally. Money managers believe we could see inflation reach new levels that we have not seen since the Jimmy Carter era. For centuries, investors around the globe have turned to gold in times of economic uncertainty. Gold supplies have flipped from excessive to deficient, and such times in the past have sparked some of gold's strongest price rallies, unquote. Patriot Gold Group has the no-fee-for-life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no-fee-for-life IRA. So go ahead and give the folks at Patriot Gold Group a call to discuss physical gold and silver. And the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 5 years in a row from 2016 until present. Click the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And chalk it up to another what is going on. Noctilucent clouds, normally way in the northern latitudes or southern latitudes, depending which hemisphere. But to see noctilucent clouds in Spain, it's about the equivalent of seeing a snowy Arctic owl in Indonesia. Put those two together as, wow, strange events. But then again, last year, noctilucent clouds were sighted in Los Angeles and other parts in Southern California. So whatever's happening, more meteor debris reaching the upper atmosphere that are now creating these noctilucent clouds. Changes for sure. Signs in the skies. This would be one. And if a picture's worth 1,000 words, Brazilian agriculture can be summed up with this, along with Paraguay, Uruguay, parts of Argentina. So if you're looking at these swing producers to pick up the losses for the major producers, not going to happen this year, because all eyes are on the Parana River here. Huge distribution grain barge thoroughfare to export and get that grain to market outbound through the ports. Problem is, it's flowing at less than half its historical average, and apparently over 60 barges are stuck and are awaiting high water because they can't actually be towed or moved because they're now in sandbar areas. And it says, quote, dramatic impact on grain transportation across 3 countries. And then also the electrical production with the low hydropower stations. And you can see that those expecting South America to fill in the grain losses from Canada, United States, Europe, and China, not going to be there. What's going to happen? So all the ethanol mandates are now on hold. It's a great way to put production back into the food supply chain. Supreme Court upheld it, sent a lot of commodities crashing, except wheat. What's that hard red spring spike there? So biofuel production, grains, down, but the things we eat still trekking northward. And off the Global Wheat Report this week, European Commission trimming its forecast of usable common wheat. That's for edible consumption for people versus animal feed. Down 500,000 metric tons, but you know as well as I do, rosy forecasts are going to continue to be downgraded and downgraded as we go through the summer. But again, knowing that last year was down from the previous 3 years, and I'm going to make a bold call and say it's going to settle down somewhere around 118, right around what last year's crop was. The rosy forecast to keep the market stable, just like the USDA does. But in reality, when you have decreasing crop yields for 3 years in a row, and then you expect it to jump from 117 million tons to 126 million tons, oh yeah, and then they got to reduce the forecast again. Like they've done this. They play the game. They give you a huge initial number, and then as the season goes along, they trim, and they go, oh, well, it kind of panned out where we said it. Nobody's ever wrong in the grain futures forecast because they are allowed to adjust as they move through the season. Ukraine exporting only 16.3 million metric tons of wheat, down 20%. This is a running theme. USDA does it, European Commission does it. So when you start to look at really how much grain is out there, it is less and less every year. So these swing producers like Brazil to pick up the slack for others, corn, soybean, not going to be there this year. And I can't believe the idiocy of this EU grain industry with green goals is then going to further slash grain production out of the EU to turn them into net cereal importers. Like, wait a second. EU's picking up a lot of slack, preventing a lot of food shortages by exports. Yet the EU is supposed to slash its production to meet green goals, which is going to cause massive food shortages in other places across the planet. I'll take this with a grain of salt. The EU grain industry is putting actual production at 128 million tons. But wait a second, you already know last year was 117 million tons. So they're already 10 million or 11 million tons over actual on-the-ground production. And they said they're going to slash that to 109 million tons. Well, you're actually going to have to subtract that other 10 or 11, which is going to go down to around 99 million tons. And what's going to happen? The onward effect. This cut in farming could sharply turn the bloc into a net cereal importer. Okay, everybody's relying on EU exports to fill the gaps from lost production due to the grand solar minimum. So if the EU turns into a grain importer, where are they going to get the grain from? The onward effects, knock-on effects going down to the smaller periphery buying countries. We're going to have a global famine if this comes to fruition. These lofty goals look good on paper for a political agenda, but when it comes to reality, when you're going to slash European production and you're going to raise the price of food and double it in Europe just because of a green goal, there's going to be a lot of push come back from this. And speaking of the value of food and understanding the value of keeping food in your country because the people need to eat first, or they decide that the government needs to be changed, Russia increasing wheat and corn export taxes yet again. And about a month ago, Russia raised its export taxes on wheat. Now they're raising it again. So what's going on? Something is terribly wrong when a country raises export taxes twice in a month. So the initial raise up to $28 a ton on export tax shook the markets. People are screaming, pulling their hair out. Oh, they can't believe it. And now they raised that from $28 to $38.10. What's happening? There's a backstory behind here. We're not being told the truth. Something about Russian production. Or they realize that food is going to be the most valuable commodity on the planet, far above oil, far above gold. And they're just going to stockpile it and wait for these record prices and keep their country well-fed, well-nourished. Which brings me into another aspect of the grand solar minimum. When economies collapse because of what you're seeing there, rising food prices, doubling, tripling, not enough food, people are going to spend all their income on food at that point. And everything else in the periphery economy is just going to collapse out. So when that does, something's going to have to take its place because fiat won't work any longer. And lo and behold, U.S. is launching 5 digital dollar pilot programs. Now, if you're unfamiliar, there's a group called the Digital Dollar Project who is spearheading for the U.S. government the trajectory of central bank digital currencies and the usability for cross-border settlements, sovereign settlement, and corporation-to-corporation settlement. It's not the U.S. government in earnest doing this. It's a subsidiary group, just like the central bank. The Federal Reserve controls the money of the U.S. Well, the Digital Dollar Project is exactly the same. It's not the U.S. government. It's something very similar to the Federal Reserve in a digital format. And a select group of Americans will have the honor of transacting with the next evolutionary U.S. currency, the digital dollar. So it's not possibility anymore. It's already written in stone, and there's a blueprint and a plan for rollout for this. And with all central money nefarious organizations, any competition is unacceptable. So one day will we see a FDR executive order to confiscate all non-digital currencies. As the digital dollar is rolled out, no more coins, no more bills, no more gold, no more silver. I wonder how the outlaw seeds, tools, skills, and animals. Speaking of liabilities, the number of new persons joining Social Security benefits dropping off a cliff. Imagine that. The timing is, well, too perfect to be coincidental. And I'll leave it there. You can draw your own conclusions. But during this time, access to food, having storable foods, and having a backup supply, just in case something strange happens, and supermarkets are not able to be restocked as fast as they are today. My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 2-week or the 4-week emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply also has 1 month, 6 month, and 1 year emergency food supply packs. That link's in the description box below. It's a great way to support the channel so I can bring in more research just like this. And right along with that, all the links for tonight's stories, images, graphs are all in the description box. You can chase it down, do your own research. Don't believe what I say, do your own research. That's why I leave the links below so you can go down the rabbit hole as deeply as you want to go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.